In an unprecedented attack, 5 personnel of the Assam Rifles and the wife and son of a colonel were killed following an ambush by suspected PLA militants near Second village along the Myanmar border in the state today. A colonel of the Assam Rifles, his wife and son, and as many as 3 quick response team personnel were killed in the cowardly ambush carried out in Churachandpur district of Manipur. The incident took place at around 11 a.m. today, and as per inputs, the assailants were heavily armed and opened fire at the Assam Rifles convoy near Second village. The Indian Army, in an official statement, also informed that while 5 personnel of the Assam Rifles, including a colonel and his wife and 8-year-old son, were killed in the dastardly attack in Churachandpur district, 4 Assam Rifles personnel sustained injuries in the attack and were airlifted for emergency medical treatment. Well, the deceased colonel has been identified as Colonel Viplav Tripathi, while his wife has been identified as Anuja Tripathi, and son, a 6-year-old son, as Abir Tripathi. Well, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also condemned the attack. Rajnath Singh termed the cowardly attack on Assam Rifles convoy in Churachandpur as extremely painful and condemnable. The nation, he said, has lost 5 brave soldiers, including Colonel of 46 Assam Rifles and his family members. All right, to know more, we are being joined live with our editor-in-chief, Wasbir Hussain. So, Wasbir, one of the deadliest attack in years, and also it is to be mentioned that Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has also condemned this dastardly attack on Assam Rifles. Wasbir, your take on this?
Yes, Priya, it was a blistering broad daylight attack that took place at 11 a.m. this morning at near village Tingkhat. This is in Churachandpur district, close to the border with Myanmar. A convoy of the 46 Assam Rifles was in that area. The convoy comprised mostly of gypsies and jeeps. The convoy had several Assam Rifles soldiers, and the convoy was led by Colonel Viplav Tripathi of the 46 Assam Rifles, and incidentally his wife Anuja Tripathi and 6-year-old son, who is a class 1 student, Abir Tripathi, was also in the convoy. It suddenly came under blistering automatic gunfire by rebels of the suspected PLA rebels of the People's Liberation Army of Manipur at Tingkhat village. That's what the Assam Rifles is now saying. And in that blistering attack with automatic weapons, Colonel Tripathi, his wife Anuja Tripathi, son Abir, 3 other soldiers of the quick response team of the Assam Rifles and the driver, of course, passed away. And 4 other Assam Rifles soldiers were supposed to have been injured, were airlifted for further treatment. As we have been reporting, Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has also condemned the attack and said that 5 soldiers, including Colonel Tripathi, were killed. This is shocking because this is a broad daylight attack which has come close to elections in Manipur. That is just about less than 6 months away. So this raises a lot of questions as far as the security situation in Manipur is concerned. Chief Minister Biren Singh has condemned the incident and said along with Defence Minister Rajnath Singh that the perpetrators will be brought to book. But now everybody is waiting for these words to be translated into action, because this is not the first time that the security forces have been attacked by rebels in Manipur, where surprisingly more than 20 rebel groups are active. Several of them have different factions. So this is indeed a disturbing law and order situation in Manipur, where security forces have recovered hundreds of bomb-making equipments and materials only last week. So this is a really alarming situation as far as Manipur is concerned.
And Wasbir, as per inputs that we are getting in at this point in time, the assailants were heavily armed and opened fire at the Assam Rifles convoy near Second village. And also, Wasbir, not to forget, just 4 days back, 243 locally made improvised explosive devices were recovered by the Assam Rifles.
Priya, we have already spoken about, yes, that's what I said. A lot of bomb-making materials were recovered. And let us clarify now, we have been reporting that it has been near Sanket village, but now the Assam Assam Rifles has officially communicated. Assam Rifles says that the attack took place at Tingkhat village, near Tingkhat village at 11 a.m. That is also, of course, in Churachandpur district. But you know, at this point in time, there are a lot of unconfirmed reports floating around. One of them that is, if it is true, that will be rather sensational in the fact that, you know, the UNLF, PLA and PRIPAC, these are three of the valley-based rebel groups. There are many others, of course. The three of the valley-based rebel groups, the UNLF, PLA and PRIPAC, they have constituted what is called a joint fighting force, and that it is the joint fighting force that was behind the attack. So this is, of course, in the realm of speculation at this point in time. We are trying to ascertain the details, we are trying to get confirmation of the fact, but security forces telling us that it is the PLA that has probably carried out the report. The needle of suspicion from the security forces is towards the PLA, but we are also getting reports that this is a combined, perhaps a combined attack, possible combined attack by the UNLF, PLA and PRIPAC that has constituted something called the joint fighting force. Of course, let me clarify once again that this is in the realm of speculation. This is not confirmed yet. We are trying to ascertain the details. Priya.
All right, Wasbir, please stay with us. We have more inputs coming in of the ambush. Well, as per army officials, militants first carried out IED blast to ambush the convoy of 46 Assam Rifles and then fired at the vehicles. So these are latest inputs that we are getting in at this point in time. Well, as per army officials, militants first carried out IED blast to the ambush the convoy of 46 Assam Rifles and then fired at the vehicles. So, Wasbir, these are the latest inputs that we are getting in at this point in time.
Yes, Priya, I am not surprised with these latest inputs that says that, you know, the militants first exploded IEDs and then showered automatic gunfire on the convoy, because that usually is the modus operandi of the rebels in areas where the roads are not good, where it is easily to hide improvised explosive devices on the road. It is very easy for them. The terrain is such that they have, all they need to do is to hide some wires, flexible wires. They carry it inside the forest from where they trigger these remote explosive devices. It is not necessarily that they always have to trigger it through remote control. It is through wired devices are also sometimes used in these areas, because there are heavily wooded areas. The roads are not good, and if you can see the visuals, we have got some pictures that itself clearly established that the road was not good. There were a lot of potholes in the road that we can ascertain from the pictures, and there were a lot of bushes around on both sides of the road. So I would not be surprised if that is true, that was the case, because what inputs we are getting, as we have just reported, Priya, is that the rebels first exploded IEDs and then showered automatic gunfire on the convoy. That is not surprising for the simple reason that that is the usual modus operandi of rebels in this part of the country.
Right, Wasbir. And so now we can say it is a challenge for the N. Singh government to tackle the situation, the law and order situation, especially because today's incidents has sent shockwaves across the state, Wasbir.
Well, you know, first of all, we have to ascertain whether there has been an intelligence failure. We have to understand as to why the army colonel was in the convoy. Why did he decide to take his family? Was he confident of the situation in the area? Why did he go? Was he confident? Well, that means if he has decided to take his wife and 6-year-old son to some certain place in a heavily militant infested area, was he confident? Was he under some kind of a assumption that the situation is under control? So these are some of the issues. Usually in this kind of an area where the Armed Forces Special Powers Act is in force, where there are more than 20 rebel groups, usually the security forces or the army officers or the paramilitary officers usually do not take their family members, but perhaps that indicates that the officer concerned was pretty confident of that the situation was all right for him to take his son and wife along. So if that is the assumption, that means the rebels may have sprung a surprise. That means the rebel may have it was a surprise attack, and that they were monitoring the movement movement of the convoy. So these are issues that needs to be ascertained. But we are also getting very, very sensible statements from the area. For example, the Jomi Chiefs Association, which is a very influential and respected organization in the area, they have categorically condemned the incident in no uncertain terms and has urged upon the government to book the perpetrators and give them the adequate punishment. So these are very, very sane reactions that are coming out from locals in the area, respected local organizations in the area. So this is what we need at this point of time. Coming to your question, Priya, it's a huge challenge for Chief Minister N. Biren Singh and his government, because he has to demonstrate that he can keep the law and order situation in the state under control ahead of the elections, because elections in Manipur have always been held under the shadow of the gun, and whether this year will be different or not, that time will tell. But if the current situation is any indication, that means we are once again going to see, or likely to see, the shadow of the gun in the upcoming Manipur Legislative Assembly elections.
Right, Wasbir, thank you so much for all those details. So viewers, now I'm being joined to a phone line with our correspondent from Imphal, Churachandpur. So Sharat, Chief Minister N. Biren Singh is rushing to Shiza Hospital. So what are the updates you have with you at this point in time? What are your sources telling you, Sharat?
Yeah, well, right. Chief Minister N. Biren Singh, though he has already condemned the today's ambush in the highest staff on his Twitter account, but we are also rushing to the Shiza Hospital. And we do have the information that the Chief Minister N. Biren Singh is just visiting this Shiza Hospital. Shiza Hospital is a private hospital in Manipur, and one of the leading private hospitals where one of the injured soldiers is being shipped for treatment. So Chief Minister N. Biren Singh visiting Shiza Hospital, this is confirmed. And yes, while we reach the Shiza Hospital also, we will try our level best to have a reactions regarding this ambush from Chief Minister himself physically. But yes, this ambush, which killed the colonel of this commanding officer, this 46 Assam Rifles, including his wife and his son, is this condemned by the many citizens, very particularly Jomi Association, already given out its press release and condemned the incident at the highest. So this is a very cowardly act. Chief Minister N. Biren Singh stated that, and every right thinking citizen should condemn today's ambush, which killed the colonel and also his wife and his son.
And Sharat, what are the conditions of the injured person? Do you have any inputs about their condition, Sharat?
You see, right now we are just very near to Shiza Hospital. Once we reach Shiza Hospital, then we will be able to tell the conditions of this injured soldier already shipped to the Shiza Hospital. So we are very near to Shiza Hospital, and once we arrive there, we reach the hospital, then we'll come to know the conditions of this sitting soldier.
All right, Churachandpur, thank you so much for all those details. We'll come back to you in our later bulletin. So viewers, now we are getting first reactions from Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh. Listen in.
Some militant terrorist group have ambushed and killed one Assam Rifles officer along with his family. And it is very unfortunate, and I strongly condemn this type of cowardly act. He was traveling along with his family, the Assam Rifles Col. So this type of act is strongly condemned, and mass combing operation along with the paramilitary forces and the police commandos has started in the area to nab the culprit, and justice will be delivered. We'll definitely put them.
So viewers, as you have heard, Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh speaking, he very clearly mentioned that he strongly condemned the cowardly attack on the convoy of 46 Assam Rifles, and he said, as I've already heard, he assured that the perpetrators will be brought to justice. So that was the first reactions coming in from Manipur Chief Minister N. Biren Singh on this dastardly attack. And meanwhile, taking to Twitter, Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh has tweeted, and I quote, "The cowardly attack on an Assam Rifles convoy in Churachandpur, Manipur is extremely painful and condemnable. The nation has lost 5 brave soldiers, including Colonel 46 Assam Rifles and 2 family members. My condolences to the bereaved families. The perpetrators will be brought to justice soon." So that was Union Defence Minister Rajnath Singh taking to Twitter and condemned this attack. And a reaction also coming in from Sambit Patra. Well, taking to Twitter, he said that strongly condemned the dastardly attack on Assam Rifles at Churachandpur in Manipur. Extremely saddened to learn about the martyrdom of Colonel and his wife. My sincere prayers with all the martyrs. May God heal the injured. All right, now I'm being joined over phone line with our correspondent from Churachandpur, MK Henry. So, Henry, what are the latest update coming in at this point in time? What are your sources telling you? And is intermittent firing still going on in the area, Henry?
As I have reported earlier today, regarding the incident, no much information can be obtained so far. However, what we have learned is that after the incident, after the army officers and other Jawans were killed, they were taken to the Behiang Primary Health Center. And from there, they were again airlifted to Limahong Army Headquarters. And another development is that in Churachandpur, there is one Zomi Chief Association. The Zomi Chief Association have strongly condemned the militants responsible for the attack of the army officers. The army officer's son, who was reading class 1 at St. Paul at New Lamka, Churachandpur, was also the prompting factor for the Zomi Chief Association for condemning the incident over and above other reasons. So now, thing is that information regarding the number of person injured also could not be obtained. However, intelligence sources said that the number of people who were actually injured were 6. But this is also again subjected to confirmation.
And Henry, how's the condition? How's the condition of the injured persons? Any information? What are your sources telling you regarding this?
The further course of action that is taken up also cannot be obtained because the SP cannot be contacted. When the other subordinate police officials were contacted, they could not divulge any information.
All right, MK Henry, thank you so much for all those details. It was well in an unprecedented attack. 5 personnel of the Assam Rifles and the wife and son of a colonel were killed following an ambush by suspected PLA militants near 2nd village along the Behiang Myanmar border in the state today. A colonel of the Assam Rifles, his wife and son, and as many as 3 quick response team personnel were killed in the cowardly ambush carried out in Churachandpur district of Manipur. And as per inputs, the incident took place at around 11 a.m. today. As per inputs, the assailants were heavily armed and opened fire at the Assam Rifles convoy near 2nd village. The Indian Army, in an official statement, also informed that while 5 personnel of the Assam Rifles, including a colonel and his wife and 8-year-old son, were killed in the dastardly attack in Churachandpur district, 4 Assam Rifles personnel sustained injuries in the attack and were airlifted for emergency medical treatment. The deceased colonel has been identified as Colonel Viplav Tripathi, while his wife has been identified as Anuja Tripathi and son's 6-year-old son has been identified as Abir Tripathi. Defence Minister Rajnath Singh also condemned the attack, and Rajnath Singh termed the cowardly attack on Assam Rifles convoy in Churachandpur as extremely painful and condemnable. Well, the nation, he said, has lost 5 brave soldiers, including Colonel of 46 Assam Rifles and his family members. Well, also let me tell our viewers here that this is the first time that a militant group has went on to target even family members of army personnel, and as such, the ambush is unprecedented in nature. And meanwhile, reactions coming in from Manipur Chief Minister Biren Singh. So let's listen into it once again.
Some militant terrorist group have ambushed and killed one Assam Rifles officer along with his family. and it is very unfortunate, and I strongly condemn this type of cowardly act. He was traveling along with his family, the Assam Rifles Col. So this type of act is strongly condemned, and mass combing operation along with the paramilitary forces and the police commandos has started in the area to nab the culprit, and justice will be delivered. We'll definitely put them.
Meanwhile, the Zomi Chiefs Association has strongly condemned the brutal attack on the convoy of 46 Assam Rifles. In a release issued, the association said that the attack has led to colossal loss of precious lives. The ZCA further stated that Churachandpur witnessed relative peace and security after a long spell due to the efforts of the government. But today's incident has once again put at peril the lives and security of peace-loving Zomi people.